Everyone, welcome back to the channel. I have recently posted a Google Forms in my community tab asking you to ask me some crochet related questions that I can answer, and this is the video you've been waiting for. So let's get into it and answer some of your frequently asked crochet questions for me. I'm also going to leave the link to the form down in the description below, so after watching this video, if you have any more questions you'd like me to answer, I would be more than happy to do a part 2, so feel free to submit those down below. Okay, we're going to start simple. This one I got a ton. How long have I been crocheting? And when did I start? It has been, I believe, a bit over 2 years now, and I actually started during quarantine. I taught myself how to crochet out of boredom almost. I suppose I'm also answering why did I get into crocheting. I was bored and at home, and I was on TikTok, as I'm sure most people were, and I saw all those cute plushies everybody was making, and I wanted in on it. And prior to that, I had taken a class with my mom, and the instructor was so mean, and I was traumatized, so I thought that crocheting just wasn't for me and it was something that I wouldn't want to try ever again. But once I tried and taught myself, I taught myself via YouTube tutorials, by the way. It worked, and I've realized that it actually wasn't that hard, and I think the lady was just really mean. And I'm very happy that I didn't let her deter me from crocheting, because look at me now, and it's something that I love to do. This is another question I got a ton. It is, how do you know what prices to charge for crochet products? And honestly, it's completely up to you. What I do is I take into account how long it took me to make, and I give myself minimum wage for that. And then I usually add, I mean, I guess it depends on the price of your materials and everything. For me, it's between $2 and $5, depending on the size and everything. And then I factor that in just to cover my materials and get that out of the way, so that what I'm basically earning is my time and my materials worth. Obviously, your audience, if your people are less interested, obviously you might have to go a little cheaper. Another big thing is like the size of the product. Like if something was super detailed but super tiny, I probably wouldn't charge as much for it as opposed to something maybe simpler but really big. And also, if you have multiple items, I usually basically pick one thing where I know an exact price on it, and then I kind of price everything based on that, like the difficulty of that item and the size of that item and how much material it took, and then I kind of price everything else based on that one, so it's kind of on a scale, if that makes sense. And then someone also asked about charging family and friends. Honestly, if your family is supportive of the business, they most likely won't have an issue just paying your actual prices. But for me, I don't totally feel comfortable doing that, so I do always like offer them a discount. Obviously, I'm not giving people stuff for free because I still value my time and the effort I put into my products, but I don't mind giving them a deal for it, especially if they are kind of building you an interest in your business, if they're gifting it to somebody else and then the word kind of gets out. So I don't think it's harming you to give a discount to friends and family. But again, it's up to your personal discretion. Question was, can you use blanket yarn patterns with worsted weight yarn and vice versa? And in my experience, the answer would be yes. I personally use blanket yarn for everything, and I've used lots of worsted weight yarn patterns, and I've never really had any issues with them. I would just keep in mind that it may not be exactly perfect. So if you see anything that you think looks off, don't be afraid to change it, and don't hesitate to not follow the pattern exactly if it doesn't look quite how you want it to look. Next question, has my sister ever learned to crochet? I have actually attempted to teach her, and it went so badly. We don't need to talk about it ever. She's just not the coordinated type. I know crocheting's not for everybody because you do have to be able to use both your hands, and maybe I'm open to trying to teach her again at some point in the future, but for right now, definitely not. And on a similar note, have I ever taught anyone else how to crochet? I've tried to teach my sister and I've tried to teach my mom, and neither of them are capable of doing it. So for the time being, I've given up, and the tutorials I post aren't exactly beginner, but I would like to think that maybe they're helping somebody out there somehow. So that would be my portfolio. This one, I didn't write them down word for word. So this one just said, scared to make something new as a new crocheter. This is such a real fear. Like when I was starting stuff, I didn't want to waste my yarn and waste my products because I wanted everything to just turn out perfect. But something I've definitely learned with time is not all your projects are going to be perfect. There's going to be messed up ones, there's going to be ugly ones, and not every pattern is going to work out perfectly as pictured. And that's just part of the learning curve of learning how to crochet. So I would say don't hesitate to make mistakes and just try stuff. The worst thing that can happen is at the end of the project, you really hate it, you can just undo it. Just don't cut your yarn off. So I would say just go out, try it, try your best, and whatever happens, happens. And if you start from the bottom, you'll definitely see your progress as you get better and better. This is a fun one. Favorite and least favorite crochet stitch. Favorite, I'm gonna have to go with single crochets because every single thing I make is single crochet, so I feel like it would be wrong to say anything else. Least favorite, I have two. It's either triple crochet because it takes too long, or slip stitches. I don't know why. I hate slip stitches. They're just so awkward and annoying, and with blanket yarn, I feel like they don't work like they're supposed to with regular yarn. How to know what hook size to use when you don't have the recommended hook size. Personally, I can't say this is something I've dealt with. I would totally recommend what I bought when I started crocheting was just a variety pack that gives you all the sizes, so that way you don't even have to deal with that issue. But if you're using yarn that is too big for your hook size, then you're not going to be able to properly hook the yarn and pull it through. And if you're using a yarn that is too small for your hook size, then you're going to have holes in your project. So I would say the best way to combat that is just to get the intended hook size. And if you're having issues with the exact hook size, you can go half size up or half size down based on your tightness and tension and how it feels. This one just says, am I a fast crocheter? Personally, I've seen people on TikTok, they crochet fast. I'm not like that. So I would say no, I don't consider myself a fast crocheter, but I've definitely noticed recently that things that used to take me significantly longer are starting to take me less and less time. So I'm definitely improving, but I think that's also something that just comes with practice and just doing it frequently. This one just says, how do you create patterns? I am going to do a video like more in depth of going through the process of actually making a pattern from start to finish. So stay tuned for that some point in the future. But basically I just have an idea of what I want to make. And then since I have been crocheting for a while, I have an idea of what stitches and what rounds kind of make what shapes. And then I just test it out and go from there. I undo it, redo it as I make it, write it all down. And then in the end, I usually have something that looks somewhat like what I want. And then I can kind of just readjust it a couple times until I have it exactly perfect. I'm definitely going to do a video though that's in more detail because I feel like that was a very bad explanation of what I'm trying to get at. This one says, where to buy supplies? This is a question I get in my comments all the time. I get all my yarn from Joann's, Michael's, and Walmart because those are the Canadian American yarn supply stores, but your local craft store will have tons of yarn. Amazon has a bunch if you don't have a craft store in your area, or just anywhere else. Most big like department-y stores will sell yarn in some capacity. I'm sorry, I can't be more helpful for international yarn buying. This one is asking me if I create my own patterns, which yes, I do, because to make a tutorial for it, it has to be my own pattern. I'm not gonna make a tutorial for someone else's pattern. So all of those are my ideas that I've come up with myself, and I've tested them myself, and I've gone through the process of writing it out, testing it out, and making it. Yeah. How long does it usually take me to finish a project? This fully depends on the size of the project, what it is. If I've made it before, I'd say maybe around an hour is probably my average, because I do make a lot of small things, especially for markets, because the smaller items tend to sell better. But some things like the little bees maybe take me 20 minutes, half an hour. Something bigger like a whole dinosaur may take upwards of an hour, hour and a half. So it really just depends on the item. I don't think you should ever compare the time it takes someone else something to how long it takes you to make something, because everybody's going to crochet at their own speeds and paces, and that's completely normal and perfectly fine. We all have different levels of experience and techniques, and you're going to take as long as you're going to take. Seeing someone go really fast isn't going to magically make you crochet faster, so just do what you're doing. This is a funny one. Is crocheting my full-time job? Absolutely not. I am in nursing school, so I'm a student. It is currently my summer break though, and I have 2 part-time jobs. So it is not even close to my full-time job. It's just kind of a hobby that then sort of turned into this, and we'll see how it goes. I'm happy with how it's turned out so far. Also, another one, how many hours do I crochet in a day? It really depends on the day. Some days I'm just not feeling it and I don't crochet at all. Another thing I find with blanket yarn is sometimes when it's really hot outside, the blanket yarn makes you like sweaty, and I hate that feeling more than anything. So days like that, you won't catch me crocheting anything. But I'd say maybe like 2 hours on average a day. But again, it depends on what I'm making. If I have a market coming up, obviously I'll be crocheting like 5-6 hours a day. If I'm just hanging out at home, or if I'm busy, maybe 0 hours. Depends. What is my inspiration for crocheting and why do I enjoy it? My inspiration was I just saw other people making really cool stuff and I just wanted in on it. Like I thought those little plushies during that like TikTok quarantine era, everybody was making the cow plushies, and I was like, I want to learn how to make that because that looks so cool. I've always been like a crafty person. I've loved doing craft activities. I've done embroidery, cross stitching. I've tried to knit unsuccessfully, latch hook, all kinds of things within that vein. And then crocheting is just kind of the one that I gravitated towards and then fully like committed into and realized I really loved it. And I enjoy it. Mainly, I find it really relaxing, and I think it makes really cute products, which definitely helps. Not products, just items. My main goal when I'm crocheting is not to sell stuff. It's more just to make something that I enjoy, something I find cute, and it definitely relaxes me and chills me out, and I really like that. This is actually a really interesting one. This is crocheting as a man and if I face anything because of that. And I think this is actually a really interesting topic because I go to a lot of markets and I frequently get asked by people there if I'm selling products that my mom made or my grandma made or my sister made. And I would tell them that no, like I've actually made all this stuff myself and this is like my product. And I mean, I understand where they're coming from because obviously crocheting is typically done by women, but I feel like it's just a funny assumption to hear, and the amount that I hear is really interesting. But I would never say I've faced any like discrimination for it. I would say sometimes people maybe have inherent biases just because of what they've seen of crocheting and these kind of hobbies. And I mean, I don't blame them for that. And I mean, I'm perfectly fine for them to have their assumptions. I'll gladly tell them that they're wrong. And that's about as far as it goes, to be honest. I get a lot of comments on TikTok of people telling me that they think it's really cool that I crochet as a man and they'd like to see more people doing that. And I honestly think that's really cool. And if I can inspire any people out there to do that, I am so for it. I think anybody and everybody should be crocheting because it's so fun and so cool. And this final one, there's 3 in 1. Least favorite plushie I've made, least favorite plushie to make, favorite plushie to make, and favorite thing I've crocheted. Least favorite plushie to make, if I'm being completely honest, it's those little bees. I really hate sewing, and having to put the wings on every time is the bane of my existence. I'm sure there's more. Anything where you have to sew like multiple pieces on, I like it, like I still enjoy it, obviously, but I'm not as big of a fan. Favorite plushie to make, anything where I don't have to sew. So like the stingrays, the whales, the bunnies, love those the most. They're the best. And favorite things I've crocheted, we're gonna leave this for a video because I should have one coming out sometime. I don't schedule out these videos in advance, which I probably should. I do want to do a video of my favorite things I've crocheted and do a big like top 10, 20 things and give you all the patterns. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that was all the questions I got this time. If I missed any, I will go back in part 2. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like. If you have any questions, feel free to comment them. I would be happy to answer them in the next part, or you can do them in the Google form if you want them to be anonymous. Completely up to you. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya!